A father's final sacrifice. The tragic fate of Karam Din's daughters. ***. The evening sky was painted in hues of crimson and gold, a deceptive beauty masking the despair that clung to the air like an unshakable curse. The dusty village of Nawab lay in the heart of an unforgiving land, where time moved sluggishly, burdened by poverty and sorrow. For Karam Din, a man of weary shoulders and hollow eyes, life had been nothing but a relentless storm, threatening to swallow him whole. He sat on the worn-out charpoy outside his crumbling mud house, gazing at the horizon with an emptiness that only a father burdened with impossible choices could understand. His 3 daughters, Zura, barely 11, Amina, 9, and little Noor, just 6, played nearby, their laughter a fleeting reminder of innocence amidst the cruelty of their world. Their giggles, though rare, were like tiny sparks against the darkness that encroached upon their lives. Karam Din's hands trembled as he unrolled an old piece of paper, yet another notice from the landowner demanding payment. The debt loomed over him like a noose tightening with each passing day. There was no escape, no mercy. His wife, gone too soon, had been the last flicker of warmth in his life, and now, only his daughters kept him tethered to a hope that seemed to be slipping through his fingers. That night, as the cold wind whispered through the cracks of their home, Karam Din sat in silence, watching his daughters sleep on the thin mattress they shared. He knew the world had no pity for the poor. It had already taken everything from him, and now, it threatened to take his daughters too. But he wouldn't let it, even if it meant making the ultimate sacrifice. Dawn broke over Nawab, but the sun's warmth failed to reach the depths of Karam Din's despair. The fields stretched endlessly beyond his home, dry and unyielding, just like his fate. He had spent years toiling under the sun, but no matter how hard he worked, the debt never lessened, only grew, like a silent monster waiting to devour him. His daughters, still unaware of the storm brewing in their father's heart, sat on the floor, eating what little food remained, crumbs of roti dipped in watery lentils. Zura, the eldest, noticed her father's distant gaze and reached for his hand. "Abba, are you all right?" she asked, her voice carrying the quiet wisdom of a child who had seen too much. Karam Din forced a smile, though it did not reach his tired eyes. "Yes, Beta. Just thinking." But Zura knew better. She had seen him pacing at night, whispering to himself, clutching that crumpled letter in his calloused hands. She knew something was wrong, even if she was too young to understand what. That day, Karam Din walked to the landlord's estate, his heart pounding with each step. The Grand Haveli loomed over him, a reminder of the power that controlled their lives. Inside, Nawab Altaf, the landowner, sat in his luxurious chamber, sipping tea as if the world outside did not exist. Karam Din stood before him, his voice shaking but firm. "Nawab Sahib, I beg you, give me more time." Altaf did not look up immediately. He merely stirred his tea, then exhaled in mock disappointment. "Karam Din, you have borrowed too much. Do you think I run a charity?" "I will pay you back," Karam Din promised. "Just a little more time." The Nawab finally looked at him, a smirk playing on his lips. "You have nothing left to offer, old man." He leaned forward. "Unless you give me something valuable in return." A cold dread slithered down Karam Din's spine. He knew what the Nawab meant before the words even left his mouth. "Your eldest daughter, Zura." Karam Din's breath caught in his throat. The world tilted around him, and for a moment, he felt as if he would collapse. "No," he whispered. Altaf chuckled. "You don't have to decide now. But if you fail to pay in 3 days, I will take what is mine." The walk home felt longer than ever. Each step was heavier, as if fate itself was dragging him down. He thought of Zura, her innocent eyes, her quiet resilience. He thought of Amina and Noor, their giggles that still echoed in his ears. And for the first time in years, Karam Din wept. He had to do something, anything, even if it meant sacrificing himself. The night was thick with silence, broken only by the distant howls of stray dogs scavenging through the village's dirt paths. Inside the crumbling walls of his home, Karam Din sat with his head buried in his hands. The Nawab's words echoed in his mind like a death sentence. **3 days. That was all the time he had to stop the inevitable. Zura slept beside Amina and Noor, their tiny bodies curled together for warmth. He watched them, his chest tightening with helplessness. He had been their protector, their provider. What kind of father was he if he let the world tear them apart? His mind raced for a solution. He could run, take his daughters and disappear into the night. But where? The Nawab's men would hunt them down before they even reached the next village. He could fight, stand against the Nawab. But he was just one man, old and weakened by years of suffering. What could he do against the power and wealth of the landlord? There was only one option left. He had to find the money. With renewed determination, Karam Din left his home and made his way to the bazaar. The streets were empty, the wooden stalls abandoned for the night. He knocked on doors, pleading for loans, begging for work. But the village was just as poor as he was. No one had anything to spare. As the second day dawned, his desperation grew. He approached Mirza, the local merchant, a man known for his cunning deals. "Mirza Bhai," Karam Din pleaded. "Please, I need money. Just enough to clear my debt." Mirza leaned back, stroking his graying beard. "Money does not fall from the sky, Karam Din. What do you have to offer?" Karam Din hesitated. He had nothing. No land. No valuables. Only himself. "I will work for you," he said, voice trembling. "Take my life as collateral. But let me pay off my debt first." Mirza smirked. "A noble offer. But you are old, Karam Din. What use is a broken man to me?" Karam Din's heart sank. He had hoped, prayed, that someone, anyone, would give him a way out. But the world was not kind to men like him. That night, as the final hours of his deadline approached, he returned home, his feet dragging through the dust. Zura greeted him at the door, her innocent smile piercing through his soul. "Abba, you look tired," she said softly. "Will everything be okay?" He placed a trembling hand on her head, forcing a weak smile. "Yes, Beta, everything will be okay." But in his heart, he knew the truth. Tomorrow, the Nawab would come. And Karam Din was out of time. The morning sun rose sluggishly, casting a dull glow over Nurabad. The village was awake, but a strange tension lingered in the air. It was as if the earth itself knew that something terrible was about to unfold. Karam Din sat motionless outside his home, his hands clenched into fists. The time had come. The Nawab would be here any moment. His daughters played nearby, unaware of the dark storm brewing around them. Zura hummed a soft tune while braiding Amina's hair, and Noor giggled as she chased a butterfly near the doorway. They had no idea. A cloud of dust rose in the distance. The Nawab's men were approaching. The sight of their horses galloping toward his home made Karam Din's breath hitch. His heartbeat pounded in his ears as the men dismounted, their heavy boots crushing the dry earth beneath them. The Nawab himself was not there, but his right-hand man, Dilawar, a cruel, sharp-eyed enforcer, stepped forward. "Karam Din," Dilawar said, his voice thick with arrogance. "The time is up. You know why we are here." Karam Din stood, his knees weak, but his resolve firm. "Please," he said, voice hoarse, "give me more time. I will repay the debt. I swear it." Dilawar scoffed. "You had your time, old man. The Nawab has been generous. Now, hand over the girl." His eyes flickered toward Zura. Zura froze, confusion washing over her face. "Abba, what is he talking about?" Karam Din felt a knife twist in his heart. He turned to his daughter, his vision blurred with unshed tears. "Go inside, Zura." But Dilawar stepped forward, grabbing Karam Din by the collar. "Enough of this. We take what we are owed." Amina and Noor screamed as the men moved toward Zura. She struggled, kicking and crying, trying to break free from the rough hands that grabbed her. "No, Abba," she sobbed. "Please." Something inside Karam Din snapped. With a desperate roar, he lunged at Dilawar, his fists crashing against the man's face. The other men rushed forward, striking Karam Din with the butts of their rifles, knocking him to the ground. Blood pooled from his mouth as he gasped for breath. But he didn't stop fighting. He couldn't. Crawling forward, he clung to Dilawar's leg, his voice barely a whisper. Take me, he pleaded. Not her. Take me instead. Dilawar sneered. The Nawab doesn't want you. He wants what he is owed. Karam Din turned to his daughter, his vision darkening, his heart shattering. He had failed. Then, a voice rang out. Wait! A man stepped forward from the gathered villagers. It was Mirza, the merchant. He held up a pouch, heavy with coins. How much is the debt? Dilawar eyed him warily. It is more than you can afford, old man. Mirza tossed the pouch at Dilawar's feet. This should cover it. Dilawar picked up the pouch, weighing it in his hands. He glanced back at his men, then at Karam Din. A long, agonizing silence passed. Then, with a smirk, Dilawar motioned for his men to stand down. The Nawab will not be pleased. But money is money. Zura collapsed into her father's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Mirza turned to Karam Din. You owe me nothing, he said softly. No father should have to pay such a price. Karam Din could only nod, his throat too tight with emotion to speak. But he knew the truth. This fight was not over. Because men like the Nawab never truly let go of what they claim as theirs. The village of Nurabad had never been so silent. The weight of what had happened still hung in the air like a dark omen. Though Mirza had paid off Karam Din's debt, though Zura had been saved from the Nawab's clutches, there was no relief in Karam Din's heart. He knew the Nawab was not a man who forgave or forgot. Inside their small home, Zura sat curled in the corner, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Amina and Noor clung to her, sensing the fear that lingered in the air. Karam Din knelt before them, running his hand through Zura's hair. We are leaving, he whispered. Zura lifted her teary eyes. Where will we go, Abba? Karam Din exhaled shakily. Somewhere far. Somewhere safe. The village was no longer their home. Not as long as the Nawab's shadow loomed over it. That night, under the cover of darkness, Karam Din gathered what little they had. He wrapped his daughters in shawls and led them quietly through the back alleys of Nurabad. They moved like ghosts through the village, avoiding the main roads, knowing that the Nawab's men could be watching. They walked for hours, the barren land stretching endlessly before them. The girls were exhausted, but they did not complain. They understood, even at their young age, that they had no choice. But fate was cruel. As they neared the outskirts of the village, torches flared in the distance. The Nawab's men. Karam Din's heart thundered in his chest. He gripped Zura's hand tightly and pulled his daughters into a nearby grove of trees. They crouched behind the thick trunks, barely breathing as the riders drew closer. I know you're out there, Karam Din. Dilawar's voice rang through the night. You think you can run from the Nawab? Karam Din held his daughters close, whispering a silent prayer. The men dismounted, their boots crunching against the dry earth. I will not ask again, Dilawar warned. Come out, or we will burn this village to the ground. Karam Din's heart clenched. The village. The people who had watched his daughters grow. The ones who had given him scraps when he had nothing. Mirza, who had saved Zura's life. He could not let them suffer for his sins. He made his decision. Gently, he turned to Zura. Take your sisters, he whispered, his voice calm despite the storm raging within him. Run. Do not look back. Zura's eyes widened in horror. No, Abba. Go. His voice was urgent but filled with love. I will find you. But she knew. She knew he was lying. Tears streamed down her face as she gripped Amina and Noor's hands. They hesitated for only a second before disappearing into the darkness, their small figures swallowed by the night. Karam Din rose from his hiding place. The men turned at the sound of his footsteps. He walked toward them, his hands raised. I am here. Dilawar smirked. Smart man. The last thing Karam Din saw was the stars above, twinkling like distant memories. He did not fight as they grabbed him, as they dragged him away. Because he had already won. His daughters were safe. And that was all that mattered. Years later, in a distant city, a woman named Zara sat by a window, watching her younger sisters play in the courtyard. Amina had grown into a fierce young woman, determined never to be powerless again. Noor, still full of laughter, had become a healer, tending to the sick and poor. And Zara, she had never forgotten. She carried her father's sacrifice with her every day, in every breath, in every decision. One day, she would return to Nurabad. One day, she would make the Nawab pay. But for now, she whispered a prayer into the wind. Asterisk asterisk Abba. We are safe. Asterisk asterisk. And she knew, wherever he was, Karam Din was smiling.